In space, no one can hear you make money. And this is the concept of the game of Destination Neptune, the game that I'm reviewing today. In this game, players play the role of private investors that will start sending out research missions from Earth, and then they will expand through the solar systems, reaching areas that are increasingly far from Earth, and as they do so, they establish research missions, they establish bases, factories, colonies. The factories produce resources, the colonies give victory points, the players are trying to collect money to become famous. Yes, I guess that in the future too, the obsession for fame that you have nowadays is still there, because fame is one of the ways, one of the resources that you collect and you can spend, and one of the resources that you use to score victory points. But overall, this is a game inspired by the 4X games tradition without the extermination element, without the combat element. It is a Euro game in which players do not directly attack each other. They do compete for limited resources, but it is not a war game set in space. There is no direct combat involved. Anyhow, let me show you how Destination Neptune works. This is the board of the game, which represents the Earth, the planets where the players will try to expand, and the net or connections through which the players will move construction teams, colonies, goods, and things like that. The game is played using a deck of cards. This is a card-driven game. Actually, we could see this as 4 decks, because cards are numbered in groups from 1 to 4. At the end of each deck, and you shuffle the 4 decks individually, at the end of each deck you have a scoring round when simply players score and collect points. At the beginning of the game, each player receives 5 cards from deck number 1, and then they start playing. During your turn, you may, if you so wish, sell a card to the opportunity track. The opportunity track is a track that you form on a side of the board. If you're selling a card to the opportunity track, you simply place it there. And you collect money. You collect credits, which are represented by these tokens and are the currency in the game. In a 2-player game, you will receive 1 credit for each card that you sell to the opportunity track. In a game with more players, you will receive 2 credits for selling a card to the opportunity track. When you reach the number of cards, a number of cards equal to the number of players in the opportunity track, then cards cannot simply be added, or better, you add 1 and then you discard the opposite one, the one on the other side. Here I'm creating a vertical line, but usually you should put it horizontally, at least that's what the rulebook says, but there's really no specific reason for that. The important thing is that the opportunity track doesn't have more cards than number of players, and when you reach that number, you remove 1 when you add a new one. After you have sold a card to the opportunity track, if you have decided to do so, that's an optional move. There's something that you cannot choose to do, which is to play a card. During your turn, you must play a card. And playing cards is really what allows you to do, well, all that you can do in this game. Let's have a look at some of the cards. Oh, scoring card. When this card is played, you score points, pretty much like you would do at the end of an age, of a generation. The 4 sections of the main deck are called generations, and the cards can be a little slippery, as you see from what has happened here. Now, scoring card, you play it, you simply score. Also, when you're playing a card from your hand, you collect a number of fame points equal to the number printed in the top left corner. Fame points are important for scoring purposes. When you're playing a card, you can play it from your hand or directly from the opportunity track, but if you do so, if you play it from the opportunity track, then you're not collecting fame points. Scoring cards, as I said, allows you to score. Then we have research missions, very important card. In order to build stuff in space, you need first to make contact with the planets where you're going. As you can see, each area in each planet has a net of possible locations where you can build stuff. When you're building something, you're placing a token in the place where you're building. The first contact with a planet is always this box here, which is the research mission. That means to build anything else on a planet, you need first to place a research mission. You can build things in order. First you build a research mission, then you build the next thing, which is a base, and then you can build a factory and maybe later a colony. These are factories, these are colonies. You can have as many research missions and as many bases as the number of players. So anybody can build a research mission or a base on a planet, but then in each of these boxes there can only be one factory or one colony. So getting there first is really key. Research missions, so you played a card that allows you to create research missions. The active player may establish research missions for 1 credit each, plus the fuel cost from Earth. Fuel is a resource, and you keep track of that by handing out tokens the players will collect during the game and will spend during the game. And there's also this very nice player aid here that reminds you of how much it costs to build stuff. As the card also says, to build a research mission you need to pay a credit plus the fuel from Earth. That is the fuel indicated in these by these numbers from the Earth to the location where you're sending a research mission. Here, if I want to build a research mission on Mars, I have to spend 2 fuel tokens. If I want to send it to the asteroid belt, then I need to spend 4 tokens. However, if I have bases along the way, I can use those as gas stations. For each base that is along the way where I'm sending a research mission, or that is in the starting location or in the location of arrival, for each such base I reduce the cost of fuel by 1. Also, there are technology advantages during the game. You will purchase technologies by placing tokens there. Technologies may give you a bonus in speed, and the bonus in speed that you have also can be applied as a discount to the number of fuel tokens that you're spending. So as the game progresses, traveling around the solar system becomes less complicated because you have bases that you use as gas stations, you have good technologies. Still, the cost in fuel for sending a research mission to a new area, or simply to move stuff around the solar planet about the solar system, is never less than 1. So you can get a lot of discounts, and later in the game you pretty much will be able to move almost everywhere in the solar system for 1 fuel, but you always need to spend at least that 1 fuel. So you spend a credit per mission, you pay the fuel that is needed, and you can establish research missions. The first player that establishes a research mission in an area is said to be controlling that research mission. Other player may gain access to that research mission. They have to pay though. And when a player chooses to do so, chooses to purchase access to a region, then the player places his or her own token under the player, the token of the first player that placed a marker there. Basically, the player that built there first has control, and that is indicated by the marker, that player being on top. Other players may gain access, but they place their token underneath. The same applies for technologies. You can acquire new technology by being the first player that places a marker on a type of technology. You also gain control of that technology. Other player may gain access to that technology from you, but that again is indicated by the order in which the tokens are stacked. Only research missions and technologies apply to the concept of control access. Everything else, you can simply put your marker there, and the order in which you place your markers doesn't matter. Now let's look at the other cards. Attract investors. The active player receives 5 credits. All other players receive 2 credits, which is pretty good. Also, in descending order of fame points, each player may collect 1 credit for each 2 fame points deducted. So when this card is played, any player can choose to spend fame points to acquire credits. Fuel broker. The active player receives a victory point, and then the players may buy fuel counters by paying 1 credit to the supply and 1 credit to the active player, the player that played this. During the game, you can purchase fuel by paying 3 credits to it to the bank of the game. So that's pretty expensive, 3 credits for a single fuel. If the fuel broker comes around, then you can purchase fuel for 2. If you're the player that played this card, then in that turn you can purchase fuel for 1, for simply 1 credit, which is a pretty sweet deal. Technology allows the active player to take control of an available technology or to gain access to an already controlled technology without playing the controlling player, because as I said, usually if a player has control of a technology, you will need to pay to gain control of that technology, unless you play this card. Also, technologies, as you can see, have branching trees. You always have to start from the first box of a branching technological tree. So, for example, if you want to build, to acquire that technology, you need first to have that one, then to gain that one, and then finally you can gain that technology there. Build. This is a super important card. In 3 rounds, starting with the active player, each player may build once per round. This is great. When this card is played, everybody gets up to 3 builds. So everybody will be involved, everybody will be doing something. The player aid is very useful here when you're just starting to play the game. Oh, interesting enough, here there is a reminder of how fuel works. 3 credits at any time, 1 to the bank, 1 to the fuel broker, if the fuel broker card is played. But back to the build concept. In order to build something, you need to move your construction team. So you have 3 construction teams that start from Earth at the beginning of the game, and you need to move them where you want to build your stuff, and you have to pay the necessary fuel. Suppose that I am the red player and I want to build that factory there. Then I move my construction team to that region and I pay the fuel that I need to do. Then I look at my player aid and it tells me that to build a factory I need a construction team and 2 credits. So I place my construction team there, pay the fuel, I spend 2 credits, and I can place a marker there, and now I have a factory there. Suppose that I want to build a colony there, then I need to move another construction team, because each construction team can only move and build once per build card. I can move another construction team there, and then to build a colony I need a construction team, hooray. I need to pay for fuel from Earth, which may mean that you pay first fuel for the construction team and then again the same price from Earth, because this is the price that the colonists that are moving into, this is the fuel that the colonists that are moving from the Earth to your colony are using. Also, if your construction team is already in the location where you're building, then you don't need to pay for fuel. Suppose that in a turn I build that factory, then the next time that a build card is played, my construction team is there already, I can build a colony, in which case I only need the fuel from Earth, construction team is there already, and to build colonies you also have to pay a price, which is indicated by a number in the symbol of the colony. To build a base, same concept, you need a construction team, but it's pretty simple, you only need a single credit. So the building phase pretty much means that you need to move your construction teams around, spend some extra resources, credits, sometimes extra fuel, in order to build the things that you're trying to build. And again, you have to move from the leftmost box of a net on a location to the next one before you can get to the rightmost ones. And then factories can produce when this card is played. When this card is played, the active player receives 2 credits. Then each player will receive the benefits from the factories that they control. So each player receives a credit from each factory minimum, but you may get extra stuff. And there is a nice player aid here that tells you what you receive from your factories when the factories produce. You look at the type of factory that you are checking for. There are different types of factories. For example, there is this type here. There is the one with atomic power. There is the basic one, which is that one. Then you look at the factory that you have, you cross-reference it with the type of technology that you have when it comes to fusion power, and that tells you the advantage that you get. If I had this factory and fusion power level 1, the factory produces 2 credits. If I had this factory here and fusion power level 2, then it produces a credit and 2 fuel tokens. When you're scoring, either because a scoring card was played or because a generation is over, one of the 4 generations in the deck is over, what you do is you receive victory points. You receive a victory point for each factory that you have. You receive 2 victory points for each colony that you have. The player with the most fame also receives victory points, and the player receives 3 victory points. At the end of the game, fame is scored normally, but at that point, fame is worth 5 points instead of 3. There are also 2 cards that can change control during the game. They remind me of the longest road concept and largest army in Settlers of Catan. This card goes to the intrepid spacefarer, 33 points to the player with a factory of a colony furthest from Earth, where that player also controls the research mission, plus 3 victory points to the player with bases on the most planets. So these also score victory points at the end of the game. At the end of the game, you total all the points that the players have after the final round of scoring, and the player with the most victory points is the winner. Oh, and something I've forgotten to say is that during a scoring phase, you can also purchase victory points by spending credits. It can be pretty expensive, it can be pretty steep cost, but of course it can be worth in some situations. I like it. I like this game quite a bit. It is a racing game in a sense, because you're trying to reach locations that are available to not everybody before the other players do. So timing things so that you can get to build a factory, you can get to build a colony before the other players do is key, which also means you have to keep an eye on the resources that the other players have available, because certain actions will be performed by all players at the same time, for example, building. And if I play a build card because I want to build in 2 locations, but I know that you're going to build in one of those locations before I get a chance of getting a second build, then that's going to be annoying for me. So I'm going to keep an eye and I'm going to see, I don't think you're going to be able to build much this turn, maybe your interests are somewhere else, so I'll be able to do what I need to do. You don't attack each other in this game, but the fact that resources are limited, locations are limited, key locations on the map is gonna get clattered fast. That of course means that you do have to grab opportunities, to create opportunities, and to figure out moments to gain advantages over your opponents. So the fact that players will perform certain phases all at the same time where certain cards are played increases the interactive level of the game, the psychological interactive elements that you have to take into account. At the same time, of course, it limits downtime, which is great because you're always involved. You always have decisions to make when other players are performing things. Players play a card, you may get a chance to build. Player creates a technology, you may get a chance to gain access to it. It's still a decision that you had to make. Should I pay to also piggyback that technology discovery and get it too? Other players establish a research mission. Are you going to purchase access to it? Player collected money. Hey, I'm gonna get some money too. That's great. I really like this. The only case of downtime maybe if you have many players and then everybody takes their sweet time building their things and you're the player that in that moment cannot or is not interested in building, then you have to wait until everybody's done. But it's going to be a rare occurrence. Most of the game you will be involved. You will feel that you're a part of the game, you will have decisions to make all the time. and those decisions are definitely meaningful and relevant. And overall, the pace is going to be pretty quick because you play a card, you perform the action, the game moves. As I said, the build action is the one that probably takes the longest to resolve. Other actions are going to be super quick. I played a fuel broker. I'm going to buy some fuel for myself. Do you want fuel? Do you want fuel? Here it is. Done. So the pace of the game is pretty snappy, which is great. Overall, I just like the feel of the game. I like the fact that the cards give you limited opportunities in a sense, but you have ways of manipulating that. By selling cards to the opportunity track, and then you play your card, you draw 2 new cards at the end to go back to 5, which means you're creating more opportunities. So the opportunities given to you by the cards change, but you have decisions that you can make to improve your chances. Overall, you will be able to do many things that you want most of the time. It is still better if you do things from hand instead of the opportunity track, because this way you can gain fame points. But there are options. There are just a lot of options. I like how you have a pretty constraining map from one point of view. Not many connections, limited locations, limited resources, and yet many ways to go about this. You can expand towards the sun. You can expand outwards, and when you are in the outer area, then there are multiple connections that can be exploited. As you can see there, the map looks pretty nice. I have to say, at the beginning it seemed a little weird to me, but then it really grew on me, and now I really like the way the map looks, on top of being very functional, very readable. The components are simple, but they're pleasant to manipulate, to handle. The cards look good, so from the point of view of the components, no complaints. The rulebook is very clear, and the cards give you a lot of information. Each card is its own player aid, so that is great. The game is very playable. It can be taught easily, and I found that it plays very well. I may not play many games of this type, which is about expansion, investing, etc., etc. But when I come across a good one, then I can still enjoy it. And I definitely enjoyed Destination Neptune, a simple game, but with some hidden depth, with a lot of meaningful decisions, with flexible tactics that will develop as the game progresses, as you are responding to the locations that the players occupy before you do, and as you're timing things so that you can gain opportunities and prevent the opponents from gaining opportunities. A lot of good things, a lot of interesting elements and decisions in what is overall a very simple design. Destination Neptune, definitely a game that I enjoy playing and that I would recommend.